Janelle believed she was creating a future with family until a pile of receipts told a very different tale. Hidden finances, shattered promises, and one jaw-dropping secret behind a locked door. You won't believe what she uncovered or who paid the cost. This is more than just drama. It's about loyalty, sacrifice, and finally saying enough. Watch now to see how it all went down. It began quietly, no bangs, no rolling cameras, just a kitchen table, a highlighter, and a woman who'd had enough. Not long ago, Janelle Brown sat quietly, working her way through statements and bills. Something about the figures just didn't feel right. A charge here, a strange transaction there, and then suddenly, there it was. A name she knew, a gallery she did not, and art, costly art, repeatedly. Now envision this. You've worked your entire life to raise children, pay mortgages, make every penny count. You've slept in RVs, pumped out water tanks by hand, and balanced the books while other folks made promises. And then you wake up one day and realize the future you were constructing wasn't your own anymore. Someone else had already claimed it, furnished the hallways, and locked up the doors behind them. This is not merely a tale of a reality TV show. This is what occurs when the fissures within a family become chasms, and one finally takes a peek and realizes how far they have descended. We have all been there at some point, have we not? You hold out hope, you put in the effort, you expect fairness to kick in, and you wait. But what if that never materializes? What if the ones you trusted most were actually living a totally different life behind closed doors, financed at your expense? That's what Janelle found out. This isn't tabloid rumor. It's richer than that. It's about duty and what happens when it's assumed. It's about women who gave their youth, their vitality, their trust, and then watched as the family account was drained, not just of cash, but of significance. Because whereas others were cutting corners on grocery bills, others were ordering dollhouses. And as bizarre as that sounds, it's true. But the shock is not in the dollar amounts. It's in the silence, the quiet manner in which it all fell apart, room by room, promise by promise. And that's where this story shifts gears. Because Janelle, she didn't yell, she didn't cause a scene. She did what so many of the strong women do when enough is enough. She began documenting everything. Now that rumors of a Kody and Robyn-centric spinoff rage on, the timing seems almost wicked. While viewers count receipts and scrutinize real estate photos, the individuals at the center of the whirlwind that are smiling in front of cameras, discussing new beginnings and moving forward. But moving forward from what precisely? This story matters because it's not just theirs. It echoes something many of us recognize. Being sidelined after years of loyalty, being told to wait your turn while others leap ahead, being made to feel like asking for fairness is asking for too much. So here's the question we're sitting with today. What really happened with the family's money? What did Janelle uncover? And how did something as simple as a spreadsheet open the door to the truth? We're about to walk through the full story, carefully, piece by piece, not with outrage or spectacle, but with clarity, empathy, and yes, just a little disbelief. Because sometimes the biggest betrayals aren't the ones that make headlines. They're the ones that happen quietly while no one's watching, until someone finally does. Let's begin. The last few years, something began to change, something Janelle could no longer ignore. As some in the family were pinching pennies, others were spending money as if it would never be exhausted. And standing at the center of it all, Robyn. It didn't begin with a blow-up or a weeping confession. No, it began quietly. Just Janelle, a kitchen table, a highlighter, and a feeling that something was off. She had been going over the numbers following the sale of Coyote Pass, doing what she always did, attempting to be realistic and practical in a family that didn't necessarily play by her rules. She was optimistic when Robyn initially became a part of the family, even concerned about her having no income. Janelle really believed Robyn would get a job and earn something. But instead, the years passed, and that optimism disappeared. As she combed through the statements, something caught her eye, a charge from a luxury gallery, then another, and another. In total, there were 6 purchases in just 2 months. And we're not talking about a few picture frames or throw pillows. These were expensive, high-end art pieces, paintings, sculptures, limited edition decor, some of them costing thousands of dollars. Initially, Janelle believed there must have been a misunderstanding. But as she scrolled through product after product, the harsh reality set in. Robyn spent more than $140,000 on not renovations, not on anything necessary, but on ornate artwork. Trinkets, if Janelle could be so blunt. Expensive pieces decorating a house that already resembled a mansion rather than a residence. and all paid for out of common family money. For a household already straining under the pressure of financial stress and emotional schism, this was the type of revelation that slams like a gut punch. Janelle, who'd lived in a small camper, who carried water and pinched pennies, had been rationing grocery runs while someone else was hanging $11,000 artworks named Spirit of the Universe. She wasn't seeking extravagance, she sought only equity. While she and Christine had been pinching pennies, meal planning, and putting off simple purchases, Robyn had been splurging as if she'd won the lottery. Janelle couldn't get her eyes to believe what they were looking at. Artwork that cost $4,600, $6,700, and upwards. And the whole time, Kody had been insisting that the family just didn't have enough money. So what did Janelle do? As those who know her would tell you, she copied them all out. Receipts, statements, and every charge that was ever questioned. She then proceeded straight to Kody and put it all in his face, literally right on the kitchen counter. And in that instant, the atmosphere shifted. This was no longer a discussion. Janelle did not need explanations. She already had them. Kody caught sight of the papers and immediately knew he was trapped. What ensued wasn't a bang of yelling or theatrics. It was more subdued than that. Tense, oppressive quietness. Kody simply glared at the papers, immobile. And Janelle stood there, folded arms, waiting. Finally, he attempted to do what he always did. Dodge, minimize, deflect. He allegedly waved it off, telling the pieces were investments. As Kody pointed to one specific charge, a $4,200 statue named Safe Harbor, he attempted to spin it. He talked about value appreciation, making intelligent investments for the future. But Janelle wasn't going along. She'd been concerned from the beginning, not only about the spending, but about the overall situation. How were they going to support another adult without an income, pay rent, pay for groceries, and get the numbers to work? To her, this had nothing to do with the appreciation of art. It had everything to do with fairness. And those statues weren't being exhibited in a museum or auctioned off. They were sitting in the corners of a home already filled to the brim with excess. Janelle was adamant. These weren't investment pieces. These were indulgences, pure and simple. And to boot, they were purchased on money intended for the entire family, money intended for family goals, like housing. Then the big question, quiet, to the point, and impossible to ignore. Did you take my portion from the sale of the land? For because as far as she could see, the figures added up a bit too neatly. Kody didn't dispute it. He didn't say much at all, really. Just rubbed his eyes and muttered something non-committal about having to beautifilize the house for resale. But Janelle had seen the listing photos. She recognized the difference between home staging and decorating on a whim. The surrealist artwork, the Art Deco bears, that near 1,600 apiece called Return to Eden. This wasn't about resale. This was about someone furnishing their own nest on community feathers. She recalled her own history with finances. As a younger woman, she'd struggled along, but following her divorce, she'd learned to budget, to make do. Apparently, priorities here in this family weren't equally divided. And now, with the receipts stacked up in front of her in black and white, Janelle could see at last the whole picture. What stung the most wasn't the money spent. It was the trend. It had been going on the whole time right in front of her eyes. Robyn received the house. Robyn received the nanny. Robyn received the special jewelry. Even winter boots from Etsy, to her dolls, of all things. And now it seemed like Robyn had received the largest slice of the land income too. And Janelle? She received a camper in the scorching, hot Arizona sun, a collapsible table, and a husband who vanished as soon as things became difficult. That evening, Janelle didn't rest. She sat at that same kitchen table, red pen clutched in hand, circling totals and living all over again every instant she'd been informed they were all in this together. But when her pen ultimately touched the last total, $148,000 spent on house decor, she knew otherwise. And by dawn, she was ready to stop keeping it under wraps. Because the next thing she discovered, it dwarfed all those art acquisitions in size. In 2018, when the family originally purchased Coyote Pass, it was going to be the dream. A new beginning, an open space where every wife could construct her own house, a permanent testament to their polygamous family. But now, 2024, that dream was yet another promise broken, hidden in the Arizona soil. And let's be clear, nobody's allowing Robyn to rewrite history in an effort to position herself as the economically savvy one while making Janelle out to be irresponsible or short-sighted. Not after all that has been made public. Finally, after all the stints of dragging their feet, fighting, and avoiding responsibility, Kody sold the land, all 14 acres of it. It sold for a tidy little $1.5 million. And after all expenses, the family was left with about $600,000 profit. On the surface, the deal was easy. Everyone would receive back what they had put in, equal portions, no drama. But behind the scenes, that's when the real story began to appear. On paper, things started getting foggy. Janelle had a feeling something was wrong, long before she ever laid eyes on the receipts. She'd been promised she'd receive her rightful share from the land sale, but when her check did arrive, it was tardy, and not as much as she'd hoped. Meanwhile, Robyn and Kody just didn't seem to be having any problems anymore. New furniture deliveries, upgraded jewelry, and designer boots at church. Janelle began asking questions, but got evasive answers. Oh, it's still in escrow, or the funds are just moving around. Nothing concrete, but while the reasoning was unclear, the expenditure was. Robyn, it seems, had been a very busy person on the internet. In accordance with certain sharp-eyed individuals on Reddit, she spent more than 100 transactions on Etsy in the year 2024 alone, most of them relating to her now notorious American Girl doll collection, estimated at more than $62,000. But it wasn't about the cash, it was timing. As Janelle was scaling back, selling her house in Las Vegas, and making sacrifices personally to help pay for Coyote Pass, Robyn was out there festooning her hallways with $5,000 frame paintings. Janelle had been living in a small apartment, then a camper in the desert heat, borrowing Christine's hose just to fill up her water tank. And Robyn, she was constructing a doll empire. It hurt to see. Not only unfair, nearly criminal, at least in theory. Janelle had believed in the dream. She hoped that her money would someday be repaid. She wanted to believe in family, in community. But the more she investigated, the more it seemed that her charity had been exploited. And then she discovered the doll closet. What she found made the home furnishings expense seem modest in comparison. It hadn't been revealed in the housing ads. It wasn't evident in any of the photos carefully arranged to showcase a clean and well-ordered house. This room was out of the way, on the second floor behind an unlocked door. And when Janelle opened it, she was shocked. This was not a closet. It was something else altogether. The walls were shelf-lined from floor to ceiling, softly illuminated, exquisitely ordered. There were minuscule velvet hangers, small wooden closets, and dainty display racks. In the middle of it all, rows upon rows of delicate 18-inch dolls towered, spotless in hand-sewn bonnets, ball dresses, and petticoats, each one more elaborate than the last. To an outsider, perhaps it might look quaint, even playful. But for Janelle, after examining receipts and monitoring each dollar spent, this was not an adorable pastime. It was a money vault of unrestrained spending, a hidden shrine to excess. And the web, it had already taken notice. Fan communities and dedicated sleuths had been monitoring Robyn's shopping patterns for months. Hundreds of product reviews had calmly accumulated, each a breadcrumb in a trail Janelle could now trace. The further Janelle dug, the brighter the picture grew. Robyn wasn't purchasing dolls. She was accumulating designer, one-of-a-kind outfits, custom-ordered from boutique creators who were charging hundreds an item. Etsy invoices and radiant testimonials showed it all. Much of the shopping had been customized, with intricately detailed stitching and painstakingly delicate work that did not come without a price tag. Before it was finally tallied up, Robyn had spent over $62,000, and that was just on accessories and trinkets. That did not even count the dolls themselves or the bespoke furniture, some of which had been imported from abroad. Framed prints adorned the doll room as well, one of which stated, "Dolls are my therapy." And the most astonishing part? She wasn't even attempting to conceal it. Internet sleuths on Reddit filled in the gaps, cross-referencing usernames, timestamps, and pictures. They discovered Robyn admiring one seller's historic lacework and another's heirloom-quality hand-stitching. It wasn't window shopping, it was curation, a deliberately curated collection treated as a private museum. And for Janelle, who had spent the night once in a room only large enough for a twin bed, almost too much of it to comprehend. She'd fought just to have enough to buy groceries. Christine at one time had to peddle LuLaRoe outfits just to contribute toward the spinal surgery for her daughter Isabel. Robyn, meanwhile, was creating a fantasy life for dolls, framed artwork, made-to-order gowns, hand-built wardrobes, all supported, it appeared, while others within the family were scraping by. It wasn't only unfair, it was a betrayal. When Kody's fans began discussing it on the internet, Robyn remained silent. No denials, no explanation, silence. And in between, Kody and Robyn shared everything. The house, the bills, the money, everything. Like spending more on doll shoes than Christine spent on hospital flights didn't require an explanation. Others attempted to come to her defense. "It's her healing way," wrote one commenter. And yes, everyone's got their something. But as another viewer noted, When your something costs $60,000 and your family can't even get a down payment on a house you promised them, that's hoarding, not healing. And just when the story couldn't possibly get any weirder, Janelle discovered one final piece of information that completely stopped her in her tracks. That gorgeous handmade cabinet where Robyn kept her earliest dolls. She didn't even buy it. Gwendolyn did. Gwendolyn was the first to say it out loud. "They're shopaholics," she wrote to her followers. Her voice had the kind of exhausted candor that comes from having witnessed the madness themselves. "I think my dad and Robyn have a horrible spending habit. Really crazy, and not in their means whatsoever." Coming from a girl who grew up right in the middle of it all, that cut close. Janelle noticed. So did the fans. Because by this point, it wasn't about the art or the dolls. It was about the pattern. A lifestyle that allowed one individual to create a fantasy while everyone else was instructed to make sacrifices. Again and again. And the most heartbreaking thing, the children witnessed it all. There was the occasion when Kody refused to accompany Christine and Isabel to her serious back surgery. He referred to it as a vacation and pretended that Christine was being a worrywart. But what wasn't seen on camera, what insiders later verified, was that Christine ended up paying for private insurance on her own and footing the bill herself. There was no family fund, a Memphi fund in case of emergencies. No dad running to the rescue, just Christine, scrambling, hustling, doing whatever she could while her daughter underwent a procedure that would change her life. And at the very same moment, Robyn was purchasing a special dress made to order for a doll named Leela and leaving a rave 5-star review extolling the minute hand-sewn details. Even one of Robyn's recent Etsy orders contained a dainty, embroidered bonnet. The fans noticed it too. Reddit exploded. Facebook groups began monitoring Robyn's Etsy buys, even coordinating them with the TLC filming schedule. The people began piecing it together, and what they were seeing was obvious. Kody and Robyn were living like kings and queens. The rest of the family was merely trying to get by. And this royalty wasn't figurative. It was accompanied by designer accessories from David Yurman, crystal wall clocks, and a unique bear sculpture that some families paid more for in a month's mortgage. Robyn and Kody appeared to have long forgotten where they had started, particularly when it came to money. Even Mykelti, typically the one attempting to maintain peace, couldn't keep quiet any longer. On a recent live stream, she respectfully broached the subject of Robyn's doll collection. She didn't apologize for the expenditure per se, but she did apologize for the motivation. She referred to the collection as being beautiful and significant, associated with very important people. Mykelti acknowledged she didn't agree with how much money had been spent, but she admired the motive. And perhaps that's understandable. Perhaps for Robyn, it was sentimental, something she used to deal with loneliness or the emotional strain of being the sole legal wife. Perhaps it comforted her, but still, where was the ceiling? Where was the line? Because to the rest of the family, it seemed like Robyn's ceiling didn't exist. But Janelle's actual breaking point wasn't what Robyn and Kody spent. It was what they wouldn't give. Because what Janelle discovered next was her worst nightmare. Robyn's over-the-top decorating binge was financed on money that was meant to be spent on someone else's house. This trend, it didn't begin with the dolls or the $6,000 bear statue. It began years ago when Kody started making secret financial choices that always in some way prioritized Robyn first. It began with little things, simple to ignore, a newer vehicle, some additional upgrades, a babysitter just to assist, and then the nanny. Robyn has at some point acknowledged how perplexed it was to come into the family without any income. "I used to pay my own bills," she explained. "Then I came in and I didn't know what to do. Do I just put the bill on the counter?" It was an uncomfortable transition, but one that resulted in her receiving more support than anyone else. During the pandemic, Kody imposed draconian measures on the other wives' homes. No visits unless they adhered to extreme measures, quarantining, distancing, near isolation. Christine and her children hardly ever saw him, while Robyn had a full-time nanny entering and leaving her residence like business as usual. Christine, in a flash of barely suppressed rage, posed the question that became a fan rallying cry, "What does the nanny do?" And the response spoke volumes. While Christine, Janelle, and Mary were paying their own mortgages, juggling bills, and seeing the family's communal account dwindle, Kody's lifestyle only appeared to become more glamorous. Onlookers saw pricey jewelry, a necklace costing more than $1,100, identical signet rings, even a $900 designer bike one of Robyn's children received, while the other kids got little more than a nod. And it wasn't only what they retained. Even when Christine sold her Vegas house, the money went into the communal fund. But when she then attempted to reclaim her rightful share, Kody and Robyn suddenly asserted that cash was theirs because they had assisted with the down payment. The logic was dizzying. Through it all, Janelle remained grounded. She monitored payments, knew which loans had been taken out, and kept the books straight. She understood what had been promised. She understood how much had been directed into Robyn's existence in the name of family spending. And now, with the figures right before her, the receipts for decorations, the orders for dolls, the jewelry, the nanny charges, piled up like a paper mountain, it became painfully evident. The issue wasn't on what Kody and Robyn chose to spend their money. It was that they spent it, all of it, on indulgences, while Kody still owed 3 other families money. This wasn't favoritism anymore. It was a fiscal pecking order. And right at the sea reigned Robyn, queen of the cul-de-sac, enveloped in baubles and carefully selected comforts. As Janelle struggled to construct a home from nothing but dust, dirt, and possibility. But what Janelle discovered next was somehow even more enraging. She went back and looked through the real estate records for Coyote Pass. And what she found? The oversized plot of land Robyn ended up with wasn't paid for by Robyn. And it wasn't who you'd expect. When the family first bought Coyote Pass, Kody made it sound like a dream. 4 plots, 4 homes, 1 united future. Initially, Coyote Pass was marketed as a chance, a clean sheet for each wife to create her ideal. But in the background, land division was never really even. Janelle had known this land like the back of her hand. She'd walked its dry roads, slept under its open grasses, and longed to build her little house there one day. But when she looked over the parcel records again after the latest sale, something dawned on her. Robyn's share? Larger, worth more, better situated. And who helped finance it? Janelle did. Not in some symbolic statement, in actual dollars from the proceeds of her Las Vegas house, poured into the common account of the family when she still thought there was a vision for Kody for what family was. Kody had a tale prepared at the time. Robyn required stability, he explained. The children required a home. It was all temporary just until life stabilized. But when Janelle required the same assistance, when she requested assistance to obtain her own home, suddenly there was no money. She was advised to wait, to be patient, to be creative. And by creative, Kody meant living in a trailer, no plumbing, no safety net financially, while Robyn decorated her walls with $4,700 paintings alongside a custom-built doll cabinet. It's no surprise that Janelle's anger became outrage. The farther back she looked, the clearer the pattern was. At every turn where money was concerned, Robyn emerged on top. She didn't simply get more time from Kody. She got the better house, the larger yard, the upgraded finishes. And now, with Robyn's house finally up for sale, and TLC cameras kept conveniently away for years, the public was starting to catch a glimpse of what insiders had whispered about for ages. Robyn's home wasn't just elegant, it was opulent. For years, Kody had insisted Janelle was in charge of the money. But even she admitted recently, everyone thinks I'm running the finances. I'm just now realizing Kody told everyone that. Even in the minimalist real estate photos, stagely arranged, ruthlessly photoshopped, there were hints of excess. Dozens of pieces of art still hanging on walls, figurines and designer decor crammed into every space. But fans also picked up on something else, a kind of sterility. The house felt chilly, glossy, as though all the money in the world couldn't purchase it a soul. Insiders said whole rooms had been packed up and stored away prior to filming and listing. So of course the question in Janelle's mind was, what else did they purchase on family money that nobody ever saw? As soon as listing photos went online, Reddit blew up. Sister wives enthusiasts zoomed in, snapped screenshots, and began matching Decor to online collections and collectible catalogs. One viewer spotted a statue in Robyn's foyer valued at almost $7,000. Another tracked an abstract coastal-style painting back to a fine art dealer. It was Spirit of the Universe, price tag $11,500. And those were just the items seen. As per fan sleuths, Kody and Robyn conducted a complete clearance prior to listing. The world merely saw the tip of the iceberg. Before long, there were thread after thread filled with spreadsheets, photo collages, and item-by-item lists. Each painting, each sculpture, even tiny items such as the Matrix of Love figurine costing $280 were added up. The tally? Well over $148,000. And that didn't count custom-made things with no stated price, or the notorious doll room, which strangely wasn't included in the listing at all. This wasn't an extravagance. It was a continued habit of high-end spending, financed, at least in part, by money intended for a much larger family. A family where multiple members were just getting over years of financial hardship. As one described it bluntly, he just always somehow thinks he's entitled to more. And the feeling of being taken for granted, used, and left behind was widespread. Kody was taken care of by Kody and Robyn. They got whatever they wanted. And the others? They were simply expected to get along without complaint. At the same time, Christine's daughter, Gwendolyn, provided followers with a peek into her life. She reports that she was paid only a few $1,000s for being on the show, enough to repair her car. That's all. Look at that in comparison to one of the figurines on Robyn's shelf, a bronze bear named Ursa Major, grinning on its place. It was more expensive than Gwendolyn ever got from her father. That bronze bear statue resting on Robyn's shelf, it was worth more than Gwen was paid after all those years of shooting. In an instant, the fans furrowed their brows. Was this a soft opening? A rebrand? An effort to reinvent their image, wrapped up nice and pretty in neutral-colored couches and throw pillows? Whatever it was, they didn't like it. Because if anyone needed a megaphone to air their side of things, it wasn't the two individuals who were being accused of tapping into the family checking account while everyone else was merely trying to get by. Behind the scenes, Janelle was said to be considering her next move. She hadn't made a public statement since those listing pictures went viral, but she was said to have already been consulting with lawyers. And the fans, they were furious. It wasn't the money, it was the perception, the disparity between Kody and Robyn's highly produced, photoshopped life and the very public battles of the rest of the family. Janelle, observing the internet frenzy from the sidelines, did not weigh in. But insiders say she was certainly tuning in. Screenshots were circulating, DMs were sent, and now Janelle was no longer the only one with receipts. Fans were doing the homework TLC never did, and they were not letting up. Then there were the rumors, a potential Kody and Robyn-only spinoff, and the timing could not have been worse. As fans were tallying receipts and crying foul over excess spending, TLC released a preview of additional Sister Wives programming. Except this time, it didn't quite feel right. There was no mention of polygamy, no appearance by Mary, Christine, or Janelle. Only Kody and Robyn, smiling softly, talking about healing and new beginnings. Not to sue TLC, but to get to the bottom of what was due. The money from the land sale, the shared accounts, the promised equity that was never quite given. For years, one source said, we all worked together to buy their cars, to help them pay bills. And now we're all on our own, and no one's helping with the younger kids. Janelle had played the long game for years. She didn't lose her cool on camera. She didn't bust out. But she listened. She remembered each and every dollar promised, each and every time Kody told her, just wait a little longer, as he poured more and more into Robyn's lifestyle. Now, she has the receipts, the actual receipts, statements, copies, ledger notes in her own handwriting. And what viewers don't know is that some of those records might already have been forwarded to producers. One insider close to the production even said that Janelle raised the spending months before the house ever went on sale. She wasn't seeking to blow things up, but she wanted accountability. Now that fans have finally caught up with reality, TLC is in the hot seat. Will they admit the backlash? Or will they attempt to frame Kody and Robyn as victims of online hate? One thing's for certain, the tide has turned. For the first time in years, Janelle isn't merely keeping her head above water. She's calling the shots. And if she decides to speak out, to put it all on the table from family budgets to doggone allowances, it'll be the type of TV that can't be spun, edited, or smoothed out. Because this story, it's not drama anymore. It's about justice. Janelle hasn't issued a splashy statement, no dramatic live stream, no tearful tirades, but insiders indicate something's shifted. There's quiet strength now, a calm that can only be achieved when a woman ceases demanding equality and begins readying herself to take what she's due. Word is she's gathering it all, the financial records, voice memos, text threads, not to cause a ruckus, but to defend herself and perhaps, just perhaps, to finally get to the bottom of what actually went on behind closed doors. What was spent, what was promised, and what was taken from the women who built that family from the ground up. And here's the poetic irony. Where Robyn and Kody once walked through their echoey McMansion, stripped of trinketization and boxed up for reinvention, Janelle's the one with the receipts. She's the one fans believe. She's the one whose silence says so much. Because through every overpriced doodad, every canvas in a frame, every dollar funneled without permission, there's been one commodity that counted more than all the rest: loyalty. And that's something Kody can't purchase back. This saga, it's not about money. It's about what happens when a woman gives and then reaches a point where she says she's done waiting. It's about how entitlement, masquerading as love, becomes just the and how entitlement destroys everything in its path.